the vibe, the pride, the power. This is Charge. Hey, yo, Buffalo, you're gonna love this one, Sadna. Nah, I lived in a lab making this joint. Hours turned to days until it was perfect. Bill's Mafia in the house. It's the Queen City anthem, built on grit and grind. Buffalo style, yeah, one of a kind. Snow falling heavy, but the fire burns bright under them stadium lights. The Mafia ignites, we hold it down, loyal through the pain. Every snap, every hit, it's the charge we sustain. From the fans to the field, it's more than a game. It's a family, a legacy, remember the name.
Charge up the field, let the crowd take flight. Buffalo's heart, shining so bright. Feel the energy under stadium lights. Bill's Mafia strong, it's the charge tonight.
Yeah, we hold it down. In the 716. Let's go. From the tailgates lit to the thunderous sound, you can feel the passion when the Bills come around. It's a blue-collar love, built tough and true. From the heart of the city to the red, white, and blue, we bring that heat, even in the cold. With every drive, another story unfolds. It's Buffalo pride, yeah, the Mafia way. Under them lights, we making plays. You feel that? That's Buffalo pride. Every fan, every play, this city rides. We built this together. We'll never fall. Bill's Mafia forever. We answer the call. Through the highs and lows, we stay in the fight. Buffalo strong, yeah, the future is bright.
Charge up the field, let the crowd take flight. Buffalo's heart, shining so bright. Feel the energy under stadium lights. Bill's Mafia strong, it's the charge tonight.
Yeah, we hold it down. In the 716. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Let's go, let's go. From the tailgates lit to the thunderous sound, you can feel the passion when the Bills come around. It's a blue-collar love built tough and true. From the heart of the city to the red, white, and blue, we bring that heat, even in the cold. With every drive, another story unfolds. It's Buffalo pride, yeah, the Mafia way. Under them lights, we making plays. You feel that? That's Buffalo pride. Every fan, every play, this city rides. We built this together. We'll never fall. Bill's Mafia forever. We answer the call. Through the highs and lows, we stay in the fight. Buffalo strong, yeah, the future is bright.
Charge up the field, let the crowd take flight. Buffalo's heart, shining so bright. Feel the energy under stadium lights. Bill's Mafia strong, it's the charge tonight.
Hot on the mic, bringing it straight from Western New York to the world. This is Charge with Thomas and Sterling. Bill's Mafia, stand tall and proud. We got this.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Championship Weekend. It is a hat and t-shirt weekend, and I don't know, it's not really a banner weekend. You just kind of like paint it on the wall somewhere, but at least they recognize what you did. I'm Rob Trigilio. Got Dave with me. Sterls is on a boat somewhere. I don't even know. I was going to say in the Caribbean. I'm not even sure that it's in the Caribbean. I don't know where he is. But
No
whoever
idea.
would be like, championship weekend. Let's go on a cruise.
Not me.
Let's go on a cruise.
Nope. Not doing it.
David, how much did you sleep last night?
Not nearly enough.
I saw your tweets at like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I knew I was going to roll over and fall back asleep. Curious as to how that worked out for you.
I was asleep for a little bit and I don't know, woke up at 1 and went, Yeah, no, we're jacked up right now. We're ready to go. We're ready to jump through a table and run through a wall. So yeah, no, it was tough.
Well, you're all subdued and quiet. I'm going to need you to get a little excited because the Bills are playing in an AFC Championship game today. We'll talk about that one. We'll talk about the other one too. I was going to say we'll talk about all of them, but there's only 2 of them. We'll talk
Both of
about the
them,
other
yeah.
one too. We'll give you a couple props. But we're getting down to it, the nitty gritty. There are 3 football games left. And as Bills fans, you can play in 2 of them. So, maybe take advantage of that. We'll start on the NFC side in a game that I don't think anybody, if anybody shows me a ticket from the beginning of the season where they had Commanders Eagles in the championship game for the NFC, I'll pay your bet. Whatever the stake you put in on it, I will pay it back to you. I won't pay
one of those teams, maybe one of those teams.
No, there's no way anybody's got a Commanders, unless you're a Commanders fan, but then you've got a Commanders Super Bowl ticket. Because I do that. Every year I put in a Bills Super Bowl ticket. But nobody's got an NFC Championship matchup, Commanders and Eagles. But here we are. Jaden Daniels, with the slowest heart rate on the planet, has led the Commanders to the NFC Championship game in Philadelphia, and it's really interesting. Well, first let's get into injuries and stuff. I know you've got your list there, so let's do that first. David, what do you got on the injury list that's important for this game?
So nice part about both of these games today is you're not going to see a whole lot of injuries. The one that does concern me here, Washington's D tackle Daron Payne going to be out today. So is guard Sam Cosme. Those are going to be two fairly integral pieces, which that scares me a little bit because Daron Payne's there for some of that run stuffing and kind of going after the QB. Maybe not a sack machine or anything, but that's somebody you want on that D line to try and slow down this Eagles offense. Jeff Driscoll and Javonte Jean-Baptiste, the defensive end, are questionable. Neither of those are huge role players, so not a huge issue there. Only 2 people out for Philadelphia. DT Byron Young and wide receiver Britton Covey are out. And then Cam Juergens, their center guard combo, is questionable.
Cam Juergens really,
questionable in a championship game. You play. Unless your arm's falling off or you're missing a leg,
or they're physically restraining him because he's Cam Juergens, he's gonna play. Right. So the interesting thing about that, so the Washington guard that's out, that's the ACL, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So everybody has told me he's their best offensive lineman. And guess who he would have been going up against in this game? Jalen Carter.
One of the best D tackles in the league.
Yeah.
Georgia phenom.
Yeah.
So
it's not a great foreboding sign for Commanders fans that their best offensive lineman, who is going to go against the best defensive lineman for the Eagles, is going to be out. I got some numbers here from BetMGM. The spread bet, 63% of the people are betting on the Commanders +6. 77% of people betting the over, and it's about split 50-50 money line bets, which is kind of crazy to me, but I think people just liking the bigger plus on the side of Washington. All right, so let's talk about this game a little bit. The things that I normally talk about when it comes to betting, and I asked this question, this is kind of my foundation for how I decide to bet things. Who's the better coach? Who's the better quarterback? And you guys know it. I say it all the time. It gets annoying. But in this game, it's
confusing.
Yeah, because the better quarterback is clearly Jaden Daniels. The better coach, I think, is Dan Quinn.
Agreed.
And you can say what you want, but what Nick Sirianni does well is he gets out of the way. He hired 2 fantastic coordinators. They run their offense, they run their defense, and that's it. I am a little bit baffled by the fact that I am so heavily on the Eagles in this game, but it speaks to the rest of the roster that they've built. I don't know. Jalen Hurts does not measure up to Jaden Daniels, but what are your thoughts, David, on the fact that, you know, if you're looking at better coach, better quarterback, it's Washington, but overall it just feels like a slam dunk to bet the Eagles in this game.
So those the quarterback and the coach are two incredibly important pieces that we've seen great teams ace every time. So if you look at the Patriots dynasty, one of the greatest quarterbacks, if not the greatest quarterback, and a really great coach who knew how to use that quarterback. Those teams didn't always have solid rosters outside. You know, sometimes it was offensive line wasn't great. Sometimes the defense was good, not great. This Eagles team, you know, every starter is really good. Even their depth players are really good. So while I think quarterback and I 100% agree with you, Dan Quinn and Jaden Daniels would trump Sirianni and Jalen Hurts for me. But when you look at this defense that ranked second in the league in EPA per pass and third in the league on fourth downs, like they get people off the field. They keep other teams off the field, which keeps them from scoring. Then when they get on offense, they've got one of the best running backs. They've got a monster offensive line, arguably one of the best two offensive lines in the league. I mean, you could look at Buffalo, you could look at Detroit, but when you look at the run game here with the Eagles, while the two most important pieces kind of favor the Commanders, the overall roster construction, drafting over the last 3 years favors the Eagles kind of heavily.
Yeah,
I get it.
I don't think you have to sugarcoat it. It's the best offensive line in the league. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you have arguably the best running back in the league. And it's funny because, you know, you feel like a little bit of a hypocrite when you talk about best running back in the league like that, because 2 years ago you were saying it was CMC with a bullet. You know what I mean? But running back kind of does change that quickly. Derrick Henry was fantastic. He was not Saquon Barkley. You know what I mean? And man, behind that offensive line, but here's the thing. It's very game script dependent. If the Commanders can do to the Eagles what they did to Detroit and get up by a couple touchdowns
early.
Yeah, like you can't play that offensive game anymore. And you can say, I'm going to stick with the run, and they probably will. They'll probably still find ways to get the ball to Saquon. But you're in a spot where you've got to let Jalen Hurts throw the ball. And they have weapons everywhere. They've got two great wide receivers. They've got a good tight end. I mean, they've got weapons everywhere. But if you can't get the ball to them, it's a problem. Now, this is me sounding like I'm much more down on Jalen Hurts than I am. I don't think he's a terrible quarterback. I just don't think he's a great quarterback.
No.
And you might not like him being a good quarterback might be all you need today, because that defense is not great. I like their corners. I like Sanders still. I talked about him last week. I thought he had a fantastic game. I don't know.
Sterling's watching.
No. No. I'm not doing it.
Damn.
I'm not doing it.
Sorry, Sterls, you've been rejected. You didn't even send us your picks. You got to drop them in the chat.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not doing it. He's 2 Bloody Marys deep right now. I don't even know what he drinks in the morning.
2?
Yeah. Oh, I guess it's later there than it is here, but oh, and you guys wake up at god awful times of the morning, but I would be only 2 Bloody Marys in right now.
You'd still be asleep, Rob.
What is it? 11 over there? No, I'd be up. I'd be Bloody Marys in by now.
Fair enough. So, and
Um,
I don't disagree with you at all here. It's kind of like what Baltimore needed. Baltimore needed Lamar to be good, not necessarily great, and avoid the mistakes. If Jalen Hurts can avoid the mistakes, that could be enough. But if Washington comes out like they did last week, you're not going to be able to ground and pound, run, burn that clock, and hope you can keep up.
And
So
here's
if I were the Eagles, I would try and start that passing game a little bit earlier just so you're in some rhythm and you're not going, oh crap, we got to stop running. Keep the run, throw some passes in. If I'm Washington, I'm loading the box and saying, Jalen Hurts is going to have to beat us.
here's the
We're
flip
going to
side of
load the
it too.
box.
Here's the flip side of it too. I mean, if you get into a spot where the game script goes the way we all think it's going to go, which is Eagles up, Washington trailing, trying to come back. Well, I mean, I feel great about Jaden Daniels doing that. You know what I
Same.
mean? So if it gets to a point where he's got to come in and start slinging it, that's how they won the last game against the Eagles. They got down, they came back. Now, granted, Jalen Hurts gets a concussion in that game. He goes out. And so, you know, the offensive prowess of the Eagles muted a little bit. But, you know, playing from behind, I'm not worried about I almost said the bad word. I'm not worried about the Commanders at all. I'm not worried about the Commanders at all. And it's, especially with how aggressive Dan Quinn is. If the game script goes the way we think the game script is going to go, I think it's going to lend itself to being a closer game. And that brings us to the spread. I mean, Eagles -6, man, that to me is a big number. And I get it. Nobody thought the Commanders are going to be here, but if you get the game to go the way you want it to go, if you're Philadelphia, you're going to have Jaden Daniels playing the whole second half, just laser show, trying to come back. And can he get it within 6? I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility against, you know, 2 rookie corners and Darius Slay.
Yeah, and Jaden Daniels had, I think it's 5 game-winning drives this season as a rookie, and if you look at what he did last week, if you look at what he did the week before, he doesn't care. He doesn't look like a rookie. He doesn't play like a rookie. He's going out, and like you said, if they're down, he's going to start tossing it. He's probably going to toss it the whole game, but if they're down, it's definitely going.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, there's also the side of it that's like, what do you have to lose? I mean, Washington is playing with house money right now. So if you follow those game script conversations that we just had, if Washington gets up early and is playing with house money, who's going to feel all the pressure? I mean, buttholes in Philadelphia are going to be yeah. And reverse it, even if the Eagles get up and Jaden Daniels starts to bring that Washington team back, who's going to be the nervous side? It's going to be the Eagles.
Be Philly.
Yeah. So it's I think it's a tough. It's, you know, what's interesting about it, we went through this when the Bills were playing the Broncos that first round, and I feel like there are Bills fans, not you in particular, but I feel like there are Bills fans who were more nervous about that first game than they were about the Ravens game or this Chiefs game, because if you lose that Bronco game, you're a fraud. Like everything you lose, and instead,
but the Broncos had nothing to lose, and if they won that game, you just go, that's
now,
how we
luckily,
do. Don't worry about
the
it.
Bills didn't tighten up in that spot, but it's just, I think, a good example of where the Eagles are. Nobody is expecting them to lose this game, and so it's an interesting spot. If you follow through with the rest of the matchups, I do like Washington's wide receivers versus Philly's defensive backfield. That's probably the only other matchup that I like. If you go down the list on both sides of the ball, if you pit the two position groups that'll actually be going against one another, I don't think Washington wins any matchup except for, I think, in my eyes, Washington wide receivers versus Philly defensive backfield. Is that something you agree with, Dave? Or
Yeah, I mean, you can't look at Philadelphia's defensive line and say that they are less than Washington's O line. You can't look at Philly's offensive line and say they're worse than any defensive line in the league. I think that offensive line is too powerful, too big, too fast, and they get downhill quick. I think Terry McLaurin's going to give them an edge at that position battle, wide receiver versus Philly's cornerbacks.
the next position group that has enough talent to maybe stack up against who they're going to be going against is the Washington linebackers, Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louvu. But you're putting them up against Saquon Barkley and Dallas Goedert and what's left of that offensive line after they take care of the D line, and it's just they're outmatched. So everything in my head tells me Eagles -6 here, but it's hard because you just go right back to who's the better coach and who's the better quarterback, and the answer for both those questions is Washington's side of the ball. So without any further ado, Dave, who you got? Oh, and hold on. I see we got TD and Sterles in the chat right now. So if you fellas are still watching, drop your picks for this game too. We'll say those. But David, what do you got for this one?
So we talked about this in week 1 of the playoffs. There are some games where you go, this is either going to be an Eagles blowout by 25 points or it's going to be a super close game. I'm thinking it's going to be a super close game. These are division opponents that play each other all the time. And like you said, Philly's going to be playing tight because the pressure's on them. Washington, basically on house money right now. Let's dial it up. Let's get weird. Let's do some fun stuff. Go try and win a game or at least keep it close. Now, I don't think I would go with money line Commanders, but I am going to take the +6. I will take the Commanders getting some points here.
It's a chicken shit way to bet.
No.
I'm kidding.
I'm happy with the spread. I think the Commanders are going to keep it close. I think if you were looking for a quarterback to claw their way back into a game, it's going to be Jaden Daniels. So even if the Eagles are up by a little bit, then they start doing the ground and pound. They may burn enough clock where the Eagles are going to just wind up ahead, and that's possible. But I'm feeling good about the Commanders. I've been riding with them all season. You're 100% right, and I think your call for the Eagles makes a lot of sense when you look at the position group battles that we just talked about. I feel like Jaden Daniels is the guy, especially in the fourth quarter. I don't think he's going to crumble under pressure. He hasn't so far. So give me the Commanders +6.
He's already earned a lot of goodwill. He'll be talked about for a long time. It'll take years of him sucking for him to undo the belief that people have in him if he does fall off. Like, he could suck for 3 years and people will still be like, yeah, but do you remember that rookie year? Yeah. And so, but let me tell you, if he wins this game, it'll be, it's going to be at a fever pitch like you wouldn't believe. So
I grew up in the DMV, and trust me, between all my Baltimore friends and all of my Washington friends, seeing a lot of stuff on Facebook and Twitter and lots of text messages. And honestly, Jaden Daniels they're not putting up statues yet, but for a rookie to come in and do what he's done, you got to give him props.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And he deserves them. But it's just funny because let's sidetrack. Why not? It's a little bit of the Joe Burrow conversation. I had to talk to somebody. They said, if you couldn't pick Patrick Mahomes, what quarterback would you pick? And he knew full well I was a Bills fan. He's like, what quarterback would you pick if you had a 2-minute drive and had to have it? And I'm like, listen, you're going to think I'm crazy, but even with Patrick Mahomes, I'm picking my guy. I'm picking, oh, come on, Joe Burrow, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, man, if you actually look at the AFC Championship game that he won, his defense got an interception in overtime, picked up 10 yards and kicked a field goal. And he's like, well, Josh Allen has never stared down Patrick Mahomes like that. I'm like, in the 13 seconds game, twice in the final 2 minutes, he scored to take the lead. And so,
there's a good clarification you just put right there. And this is something that I think the national media and general football watchers from all walks of life need to get into their brains. Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes have never played each other.
Yes,
Josh Allen doesn't
say that. They do. It is Patrick Mahomes versus Josh Allen.
Their teams play each other, and yes, there is some. If one of them screws up, gives the ball back to the other team. I get that, but what I'm saying is, in that 13-second game, tell me Josh Allen wasn't electric.
Yeah,
Josh Allen didn't lose that game.
I think you have to have some nuance to the conversation. It's not just what's the final score, that quarterback was better. You know what I mean? And that's what I was trying to say is, Josh Allen absolutely stared down Patrick Mahomes twice in the final 2 minutes of that game and then didn't touch the ball again while his defense gave up 10 points and they lost. So, to that end, since then, Joe Burrow went back to an AFC Championship game and lost, and then has missed the playoffs twice. But everybody still puts him in the top 3 of quarterbacks. And again, I think he deserves to be there. But it shows you how long our memories are. The guy hasn't made the playoffs in 2 years, and yet we're still putting him in the top 3 of quarterbacks. Jaden Daniels, for what he's accomplished this year, he's bought himself 4 to 5 years of maybe being called the best quarterback in the NFC. I don't think it's a stretch. The other names you put up there are Matt Stafford. Who might retire. Jalen Hurts.
Don't say Dak. Don't say
Dak Prescott. I mean, those are your guys. Those are the ones. No. And so he might be the best quarterback in the NFC, and it's going to be interesting to see how the next couple of years play out. He should have a sophomore slump. Most quarterbacks do. CJ Stroud went through a sophomore slump this year. But I still think CJ Stroud's a good quarterback, and I still think he's going to come back and dominate. So it'll be interesting to see how Jaden's next couple of years go and how much goodwill this earns him.
So
talking about the game today, I'm on Eagles -6. The roster is just too overwhelmingly good, and I hate it because it's not how I bet.
Right.
It's not how I bet. I bet who's the best coach, who's the best quarterback, and then I create some kind of cockamamie reason why that's the person that I bet on. I want to be on the Commanders here. I just can't do it. I'm going to take the Eagles -6. We don't often get into overs and unders and props and stuff like that. I will tell you, I like the over in this game. I think the Eagles are going to score just because they have that much talent, that much more talent than the Washington defense. And I think the Commanders are going to score because they have to, and they have the better quarterback. So 47 to me feels like a really low number. For the over-under, I mean, unless both teams get really tight and start making mistakes, that I think could drive down the point total. But overall, I feel like the over is a slam dunk here. How do you feel about that?
Oh yeah, no, this should be fireworks, and this is unlike kind of that AFC North battles where Baltimore and Pittsburgh just run into each other and it's a knockdown, drag out, 13-10 kind of game. This feels like everybody's loaded up for war and ready to start shooting, and they're just gonna throw it all over the yard for Washington and run it. I did just find out that the Commanders defense allowed the third highest EPA per run play against 12 and 13 personnel.
Yeah.
And the Eagles are really good at that.
Yeah.
And the Commanders run defense is ranked 27th in EPA and 24th in success rate. So I understand why you go Philly. I think if I thought Philly had less pressure on them to succeed, especially after they crumbled last year, I think I'd go with Philly, but I think that pressure is gonna make them crumble a little bit more than Washington. I still think they win, but I think Washington will keep it close.
Washington's rush defense is a huge reason that I think the Eagles are going to win this game. And again, you don't have to get a ton of stops if Jaden Daniels plays the way he's been playing. But I just feel like a tall order for them. I don't know if you have any other props that you want to hit on. I did just want to mention one more. Jaden Daniels passing yards right now on BetMGM are 121.5. Listen, if they are going to compete in this game, much less win in this game,
225 plus.
You're gonna have to be over 250 for him. And with how aggressive Dan Quinn has been going for it on fourth down, trying to come back, I love the over on that. So, who knows if they're actually going to compete? Maybe they don't. But I just think if there's a game plan that has them winning, it's Jaden Daniels throwing for more than 222 yards.
Yep. I've got a couple here, all receiving related. Right now, A.J. Brown, the over is 65.5 yards. I wouldn't be surprised if he nails that. Here's the one I'm looking at. Terry McLaurin, 61.5. Now, I think Philadelphia is going to do everything in their power to bracket the shit out of him and try to keep him from getting those explosive plays that he's known for getting. So if I were looking at something, while Terry McLaurin, I think, will probably still hit that over, I'd be looking at De'Ami Brown, 39.5 yards. If they're going to bracket and double cover Terry McLaurin, who would I be looking for with some speed and some outside capability who may get lost in the shuffle as a non-primary receiver? Give me De'Ami Brown, 39.5 yards or more. Smash that over.
Yeah, I like that. I've always liked De'Ami Brown.
Yeah.
It's like I said, I think that receiving group versus the Eagles secondary is probably the only place that I'd tell you I think it's a win for position group versus position group. So I like that pick. I do. All right. Anything else on this game you want to touch on before we move on?
To all of the Commanders fans in my mentions and on Facebook and everybody I know from back home, good luck today. I know we got some Eagles fans at the bar that we watch the Bills games at, so that'll be it'll be an interesting game. It'll be loud, but I'm more excited for game number 2.
Really? Go ahead. Tell me
Can't
why.
imagine why. Huh.
Tell me why.
I don't know if there's this team from Western New York called the Buffalo Bills.
Oh, hey, how about that?
They're playing football today.
Much like many Commander fans. And it's why I'm happy to have the Commanders fans in our bar. I wish them the best. It's been a long time coming, and it's the most important game that I'll remember. Because I was alive for the Super Bowl years, but I literally got left at my grandma's house so my parents could go to the Super Bowl, and I was playing with Tonka trucks and Barbie dolls and whatever in front of the TV. Okay, I don't remember it. And if you talk about the 2020 AFC Championship game, oof. I never thought we were going to win that game. Getting there was the important thing to me because I felt like, and I had talked to my friend, I'd called him and I'd said, am I too full of myself right now? After we beat Seattle, I'm like, the only team in the AFC that I'm afraid of is Kansas City. They're better than us, but everybody else I'll take my chance against. And it turned out to play out that way. And we got to that game. And when we got to that game, I was just like, hey man, if they win, great. I'm psyched, but I'm not expecting them to go in there and win this game.
There was no expectation. The life cycle of the teams. Kansas City was at that point probably a couple years ahead of the Bills.
Yeah.
They had it figured out. They had the coach. They had the quarterback. They had the offensive coordinator. They had the defensive coordinator. They really they knew what they were doing, and they were set up for success. They had incredible talent. So yeah, I don't think I felt it. I remember the Super Bowls. I was fairly young, but everybody was in their starter jacket phase, and I played football because of Bruce Smith. And,
You
I
want to know the
remember,
first playoff game I remember watching?
don't tell me it was the Music City Miracle.
Music City Miracle.
That was depressing.
Yeah.
That was so depressing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, no, this is
I was a kid that was playing football at the time, watching the game with my dad. Like, we won the playoff game.
until everything's at 0.
Right.
I think as
That's
Bills
why.
fans,
That is why I have that now. You wonder why when we're at the bar, I won't let them play the song until zeros are on the clock. That is why.
I was chatting with my dad yesterday, and obviously, he grew up in Buffalo, and he lives in Buffalo now, or East Aurora. And he's like, I'm not going to say I'm optimistic because that's punished. That's fair enough.
Yeah.
As Bills fans, we've been hurt. We've been in a bad relationship with a team that wasn't very good for us. And now we are used to success. And it's interesting to see the various narratives. But I will say, having worn Bills gear around the city most of this week, I've gotten more Go Bills from non-Bills fans.
Sure.
I've had Raiders fans, I've had Broncos fans, I've had Giants fans, I've had fans
It's America's team, yeah.
And this feels a lot like the anybody but the Patriots mojo. And everybody says you just got to beat the Chiefs. You can't let them do it again. And again, I'm not going to say I'm cautiously optimistic because we haven't beaten them in the playoffs. But if I'm looking at every Kansas City team we've played in the playoffs, this is the one that can get got.
Well, and last year's could get got too. The problem is you had AJ Klein and Tyrell Dotson playing linebacker for you,
and Tyler Bass.
Right. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff. So I think last year's Chiefs team may be a little bit better than this year's, but they're pretty close. I like this year's wide receivers better, but I think overall, when you look at it, the teams aren't that far apart. I think just generically, if you're going to talk about it, the teams aren't that far apart. And so it leads to you trying to break down some nuanced things to try to find reasons to bet for the team that you already wanted to bet on, because the teams are that close. And so if you walked into this game wanting to bet on the Chiefs, you can find reasons to bet on the Chiefs. And if you walked into this game wanting to bet on the Bills, you can find reasons to bet on the Bills. But at the end of the day, these two teams, I think they're very close. There's one thing that's not quantifiable. And I've said this to you, and I'll say this to you now, in case we need to have a show in a couple weeks. Josh Allen, every time in his career, he's hit another level of big game.
Stars.
He has had like a sugar high moment that he has not been able to control. The first game he started versus the Chargers, he looked like a deer in headlights. The first game against the Patriots was the one where Dable laid into him because he threw a bunch of interceptions. His first playoff game, he's pitching it backwards to Dawson Knox.
And he didn't do it last week.
No, but that's what I'm saying. The first time he's in these games, it's a little bit too big for him. And then he realizes he belongs and he calms down and fine. And maybe over the years, since he's been so good for so long, maturing, that's not something that'll happen to him the next time he hits another big stage. What I do think is he's been here before. And he knows what it feels like. And that makes me confident in the Bills. Everybody wants to say, well, Patrick Mahomes knows what he's doing, playing at home. Even though I think the Bills have the better team, I think the experience wins out. Which, like I said, you can make ways to bet on the team you want to bet on.
Yeah.
But what I think is Josh Allen has been here before. This team is comfortable playing in Arrowhead. They know how loud it's going to be. They know what it feels like. It's not going to be a surprise. And I think that matters because then I think between the experience that Pat Mahomes has and the experience that this Bills team have, you can kind of wash them out. and just say, now let's just look at the teams and see what the actual matchups say and who we think is going to win. What are your overall thoughts on the game, the generic ones?
Yeah, I'd say you're 100% right. And you and I have talked about this for years. Josh does hesitate or have mental lapses the first time he does a thing. And then he comes back and, the Bills head coach, Sean McDermott, talks about a growth mindset. And what that is incremental improvement. You made it to the playoffs, you shit the bed. You make it to the playoffs again, you know what to expect. Do a little better. You make it to the next game, something goes wrong. All right, come back next year. Make it to that game again, learn from your mistakes, do better, move forward. Make it to the championship game. You played really well, one of the best games, around. You didn't win. Okay, come back next year, do it again. And this Bills team feels different. This Bills team looks different. We talk about lockdown corners like we did with the Broncos game. Okay, you've got a lockdown corner. Who are you putting them on? Take that person out. I don't care who you say. Anybody you want. Amari Cooper, great, he's gone. Khalil Shakir doesn't get a catch all game. Anybody. Keon Coleman, you want him on a big body receiver. Keon Coleman, out. Great. What about the other 6 people? Same thing with the Chiefs, though. They have found ways to win. Now, the gentleman at the grocery store who was a Chiefs fan who's giving me shit refused to say that any of those games were luck. And I said, okay. I'm not even... I said luck. I didn't say the refs helped them. I didn't say anything's rigged. I just said you had some scenarios where you probably should have lost. And for one reason or another, you can call it luck. You can call it great coaching meets preparation and everything else. But they found a way to win. And really, with the exception of the Bills game that they lost, and a Broncos game that they didn't really play starters, they haven't lost this season. And they're dangerous at home. And that crowd's going to be rowdy, whether it's Bills fans or Chiefs fans or anybody else. That's going to be a loud stadium.
To counteract that, though, the fact that the team that they did lose to is the Bills, there's not this mystique for Buffalo, at least. Nope. For everybody else, maybe there is. But I just don't, You
watched a God bleed. That's all. Well, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, and Jim Nantz cut a video for CBS that said this is Goliath versus Goliath. Like I just think the Bills believe that they're on this level with them, that it's not punching up. You know what I mean? So
where in previous seasons you're right. I think there was definitely a David versus Goliath. This is the team, they can't be beaten. They're at home, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Screw all that. That narrative is toast now. We know for a fact these are 2 really great teams, 2 really well-coached teams, 2 great quarterbacks. Now everybody, for the most part, is healthy, and we're going to see how it plays out today.
What do you got on the injury report for this one?
All right, so for those Bills fans who watched the game last week, you saw Taylor Rapp go down. He is downgraded to out. Christian Benford, the cornerback, one of the best in the league, is questionable. That being said, he was on the plane. He traveled with the team. You saw him get off in Kansas City. This is a huge game. There's no chance he doesn't play unless that leg falls off. So he's got a concussion, but was, ready to go. He was in practice all week, so he looked pretty good. I haven't gotten the official ruling yet.
It's his first concussion, so everybody thinks that he'll get cleared. It would have to be the NFL holding him out because the Bills would clear him, and any football team would clear him. The concussion protocol is extra cautious in the regular season, but we saw Ray Davis be in concussion protocol and make it back. So,
and then for the Chiefs,
on the Chiefs side,
nobody even listed as questionable. Of course, the traditional Patrick Mahomes, a la Tom Brady. Oh, he's got an ankle injury. He's been a full participant for 6 weeks.
Surprise news: Patrick Mahomes out for today's game with an ankle injury.
These injuries. I mean, obviously, the Chiefs are as healthy as they're going to be, not including the players on IR. Yeah. The Bills, Taylor Rapp being out does mean that rookie Cole Bishop is going to play. There are some who say he is more athletic and, maybe better prepared for this because he did play throughout the season. This isn't a rookie who sat on the bench all season and hasn't seen the field. He's been on the field. He's played a good amount. So, you don't hate that. You don't love having a starter out, especially in the backfield. But Patrick Mahomes doesn't throw deep this season,
Well,
and he's not good when he throws deep.
he
this
might
season.
today.
He might
He's gonna
today.
He's gonna try to at least. What that does is it makes Hamlin your deep field safety, and
Put
they'll
Cole in the
still
box.
do what they do, which is disguise looks and switch the two of them around. But for the most part, Hamlin will be your deep guy, and Cole Bishop will be down in the box. And I don't think. Oh God, I feel like I'm going to regret saying this.
Say it.
I don't feel like with the Chiefs rushing game that you're going to need an extra safety down in the box. So Isaiah Pacheco has not looked the same since his injury.
Nope.
Maybe this is the
Kareem
week
Hunt.
that it clicks back in. And Kareem Hunt has been the better of their two backs, and he's just. I mean, Sterles and I talked about it earlier this week. He's just a warm body at this point. Average replacement level running back. Of course, he's better at it than I will ever be, but you know what I mean. Like he's not special anymore. All right, let's look at the numbers here. On the spread, according to BetMGM, 62% are betting the Bills +2. And then on the over-under, 62% of the bettors are on the over. And on the money line bets, 59% on the Bills. Well, let's just do it, and then we can talk about why we did it. Dave, who are you picking here?
Buffalo spread and money line.
Spread and I mean, you don't have to do both, but you can. Spread and money line.
Yep. I don't see Josh Allen making mental mistakes here. I'm not worried about the Chiefs running game. So the pass rushers are going to be able to focus on that kind of cage rush, keeping Patrick Mahomes in as much as possible. My concerns are one of the best tight ends to do it versus our zone defense. And if you watched the last two games, and it's been a little more than two games, our cornerback opposite of Christian Benford has given up some big pass plays. Sometimes it seems like maybe there's miscommunication with the safeties. He's expecting help over the top. But I think our defense locks down. I think people like Von Miller, Greg Rousseau, and Ed Oliver in this game playing against what is, I'll say, a replacement level left guard. I think Ed Oliver should have himself a game like he did last week. Von Miller loves and has said multiple times in his career, these are the moments he's looking for. The normal games are fine. I mean, that's a little prima donna to say like, oh, I don't like practice or the regular season, but if the game's on the line and it's, there's glory in it, I'll take it. But that's the game I want Von Miller, and that's a game Von Miller can earn the contract that he has.
Well, he's got a lot on the line today. If he wins, all that money that he took off his contract, he put into incentives. And the biggest incentive, win the AFC Championship game. Yep. So, this is it, man. He can make a lot of money back today. My light just turned off. I don't know why. But I look fine without it, right? Listen, so let's first give a shout out to Yamster. He says the Bills win this. Can't see their pride letting them lose this one. Bills should be more hungry, and the Chiefs have been there before. There is a lot of that sentiment going around that the Chiefs, the three-peat, of course, they're motivated to go. Don't get me wrong. But there's just a little bit of complacency there. I've heard people say, I'm obviously not in the building with the Chiefs, but I've heard people say they feel like there's a little bit of complacency there. So it'll be interesting to see if the hunger for the Bills outpaces the experience for the Chiefs, right? Because the Chiefs have been there before. I do like your point on the defensive line. I think they're going to attack that guard that's in so they could slide Tooney out to tackle. I like a guy like Greg Rousseau versus Tooney. I like a guy like Von Miller versus Tooney. I like Rousseau better, but Tooney's been good sliding them out, sliding him out. He's been good, but not great out there.
And that's not his natural position.
No, no, not
he
at
is
all.
an amazing. He's a really great guard.
Yeah,
He's a good tackle.
but
now you're taking a good tackle and putting a not great guard next to him.
And his biggest problem is arm length. So why wouldn't we put the tallest motherfucker on the planet up against him? You know what I mean? Right. If you can put Groot on him and really give him trouble with those long arms, you could find yourself in some good situations there. I'm definitely worried about the safeties. I'm not worried at all about the corners. And it's interesting because the corners actually, to me, don't match up well with the wide receivers. Christian Benford and Rasul Douglas are bigger, are able to match up with physical wide receivers, but Hollywood Brown is a speed guy. Xavier Worthy is a speed guy. You could, have some trouble there. But I'm going to trust them, and I'm going to say that I'm not worried about them. And there's been something different over the last couple of times the Bills and Chiefs have played that I just don't think anybody's really talking about. The game that the Chiefs won, Terrell Bernard was not in there.
Okay.
They've won the games where Terrell Bernard has been in there. And one of the things, and Sturls and I have talked about this a lot on our Bills podcast, which is Tuesday nights, one of the things that we have said for a lot of years is that Matt Milano is going to match up with Travis Kelce and beat him, right? And Matt Milano just hasn't been able to, been able to match up with Travis Kelce. Athletically, if you're talking about the profile, he should have been able to. So why can't he cover Travis Kelce? There's a thinking side to it where Travis Kelce doesn't run normal routes. He's
out there playing schoolyard ball.
Right. Yeah. He's just kind of improvising out there. Do you know who can handle that? Do you know who I do think has the same kind of football IQ that Travis Kelce does? It's TB. And Terrell Bernard has shown throughout the year the ability to outthink the play, to carry a guy a little bit longer because he knows the ball is going to be thrown there, to drop off his man and get an interception because he knows that pass is coming over the middle. He does have that kind of outthinking the play mindset. And so if you put Matt Milano on Patrick Mahomes as a spy, he's plenty athletic enough to do that. And if you
that was going to be my point. If you let TB cover him, that allows Matt Milano to do what he's excellent at. That's rushing the passer, that's contain, that's tracking people down out of the backfield. There's a lot of good that comes with allowing TB to play to his natural strengths and Matt Milano to play to his.
Now that's not to say that he's going to shut down Travis Kelce. I mean, that's not.
No. He's Travis Kelce.
Even in his old age, his old decrepit, whatever, 34-year-old age, you're not going to completely shut him down. But I just think TB is going to have the football intelligence to know that, like, oh, we're plastering to wide receivers now because we're into the second play. I need to make sure I'm on Kelce. He's going to cut it short right here. You know what I mean? Like all that kind of stuff. I think he's going to be able to outthink. So I think 43 is a big point of emphasis in this game. I think he's going to have a hell of a day to shut down the middle of that field. And I think he can do it. Flip it on the offensive side of the ball. Chiefs run defense has not been good. I think that's where the Chiefs are expecting the Bills to attack. I don't think that's where they attack. I think they attack in the passing game. I think it is a different script than you had versus Baltimore last week. Everybody is talking about how much they run the ball, how they're going to be physical and overwhelm people. That could still be part of the game plan. But did you see CJ Stroud running free last week? I mean, to me, the thing that the Bills, I think, should do is attack the linebackers with the several weapons they have to attack the middle of the field, Shakir, Kincaid, so on and so forth. Attack those linebackers, attack those safeties, and then you tell Josh, dude, if it's not there, pull it down and run, because they cannot stop the quarterback run. So I think the big matchup for me on the offensive side of the ball is you want to throw a couple balls to those outside wide receivers to keep those safeties honest, but I want you to attack the middle of the field with your plethora of weapons that can do that. That's kind of the key for me. What about for you, David?
I got a couple things. One, I 100% agree on the running back piece. I don't know if the run game, the traditional run game, handing it off to a wide receiver is going to be the thing that the Bills lean into and that the Chiefs just can't stop. I think they're coming up with plans to try and make Josh one-dimensional and make him throw the ball. They want to take away those runs. Now, while I agree it's going to be a Shakir game, it's going to be a Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid game, kind of middle of the field, what I'm looking for is receptions out of the backfield. Ty Johnson, actually all three, doesn't matter. James Cook and Ray Davis can all catch it out of the backfield. Yeah. But I think there's going to be a level of mismatch these linebackers are not ready for, and the Bills going forward. Now, that being said, we're talking about the pass game. You have to talk about Chris Jones. The Bills' offensive line, one of the best in the league. Top 5, certainly. Top 3, probably. Now, Chris Jones doesn't care about that. Now, they did a nice job with him. Even Osiris Torrance, the second-year guard, did a nice job against him. But you can't hold that kind of guy down. He's going to come. This is a big game. He's there to make his money, too. So I don't want Josh in the pocket too long. I know he likes to extend plays. The last thing I want is him trying to hold on in the pocket. Like you said, if it's not there, run it. The last thing I want, though, is Chris Jones landing on my quarterback as he's sliding, or Chris Jones knocking him out on his way out of bounds. So for me, it's middle of the field, and it's going to be receptions out of the backfield versus this kind of mismatched linebacker core. The other thing I want to talk about is kicker. Harrison Butker.
No, we're not going to talk about kicker.
We're talking about the kicker because the teams that win today, we talk about turnover battle. Bills are, I think, 21 straight games not losing the turnover battle, so being even or being a plus. Turnover battle is going to be huge. Field goals, not touchdowns, is going to be huge. And when you're on the other side of the ball, stopping them from getting touchdowns and holding them to field goals is going to be huge. I don't know if I would have felt good about this game kicking a couple of weeks ago, but watching Tyler Bass boot the shit out of that 51-yarder that went more than halfway up the uprights, 51 yards in the freezing cold with a ball that feels like concrete, maybe not dead center, but close enough. And knowing that this isn't Butker's greatest year.
Let's not get into us, our kicker being better than their kicker.
And I'm not saying he is. I'm hoping neither of these kickers see the field with the exception of extra points and kickoffs. I don't want this to be a last-second field goal winning game or losing game.
They both have struggled throughout the year.
Correct.
And if you put either of them out there with the game on the line, it's going to be anxious moments. There's no doubt about it. Harrison Butker at least has that experience to lean on to maybe calm himself down a little bit. Tyler Bass, the biggest kick he's ever kicked against this team, he missed. So it'll be interesting to see. But at the end of the day, I don't think you feel great about sending either one of them out there. And I think if these two coaches have the choice, when it gets down to that moment, they're going to try to put it in the end zone. And so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out if the game does end where you have to put it on one of their feet. All right. So you said you're taking Bills spread and money line?
Yes, sir.
Listen, I have said on this podcast a whole bunch of times, I do not bet on the Bills because I feel like I have some rose-colored glasses when it comes to analysis. If I was to bet the Bills as the spread lies right now, I would bet the Bills +2. Instead, I'll bet a different spread. Going to go in and select the Bills -2.5 at +120 and pick that as my number that I'll bet on today. So,
damn.
Yeah, that should tell you how I feel about the game. I think the Bills have the better team, and I think I'm going to be super sad when they lose. Sterls in the chat earlier said he's got the Bills 31-24, I think it was. So he's got the Bills winning by a healthy margin as well. Over under right now it's at 49. That has crept up throughout the week. I like the over on that too. A lot of talk about the defenses and so on and so forth. And at the end of the day, who do you think's really going to make the difference? I mean, let's bet on the two Supermen. You know what I mean?
I mean, honestly, anything under 50 for this game, you're like 24-28, 23-21 would be a disappointment there. I'm looking at 31-35, 31-38, somewhere in that range.
Casey's not known for putting up over 30 points, but it's just this is a different animal, I feel like. So I agree with you. I like the over there.
Have you looked at any of the props right now?
I've got one prop that I like. You can go ahead. Do you got one you want?
I was just looking at some of the quarterback props right now. 259.5 for Patrick Mahomes and 228 for Josh Allen. With a team that could rely on the run, that Josh Allen number is low enough to get me interested. I just worry if they break off a couple large runs, which James Cook has done, that may limit the opportunities for some of those big passes. I don't love either of the quarterback props right now. What do you see that you're loving?
So he doesn't score a lot. I'm going to preface by saying that. So people might look at it and be like, oh, he's only got X amount of touchdowns on the year. I like Khalil Shakir for a touchdown today. He's +250 on BetMGM right now. I think if you ask Josh Allen in a quiet room what wide receiver he trusts the most, the answer is Khalil Shakir. I think
maybe Matt Collins after that.
Yeah.
+650. Just saying.
I think the interior of that defense is susceptible to if they're in zone coverage, Khalil Shakir eating them up. Even if they're in man coverage, I think he's got the quickness to win. So I like Khalil Shakir for a touchdown today. That's my prop. +250 on BetMGM right now.
I do like that. Looking at some of the rushing props, Ty Johnson over 8.5. Yes, please.
He doesn't get a lot of straight runs.
But here's where I would actually prefer. Ray Davis, 9.5. If it comes to the fourth quarter and the Bills are up, they're going to want to hand Ray Davis the ball, and they're going to want to close out the game.
8.5 and 9.5 yards or carries?
Yards.
I would take probably both of those.
I would take both of those.
Yeah. It's interesting because you just need like that Ty Johnson run to get a first down to run the clock out at the end of the Ravens game was enough for 8.5.
Right.
It takes not a lot of straight runs that either of them get. They're more catches out of the backfield. So I would tend to look at rushing plus receiving for those guys. But those are low enough props. I might get in on those too. All right. Anything else you want to hit?
It's been a great year. Thank you to everybody who's been watching us. We have some, commenters who are in all the time. I noticed all of our Ravens fans in the chat from last week didn't show back up this week. I don't know why. Suspect. That being said, shout out to my dad who's in the chat right now, watching from Buffalo.
What up, Pops?
And shout out Sterls, who's obviously on a boat right now, but I hope he's enjoying himself. And no matter the outcome, this year has been crazy. It's been fun. This podcast, Rob and I also work with the Denver Bills Backers, an organization we started this year. We've raised a bunch of money. Regardless of the outcome, proud of the team. Regardless of the outcomes, we've got a Super Bowl in 2 weeks. So let's see how today plays out, and let's look forward to that next opponent. Who would, if you had to rank the combinations, AFC, NFC, rank me your 4 preferences for Super Bowl matchup you'd want to see.
Come on. It's not, I can't
give it to me.
fairly answer that question. Everybody knows what the answers are going to be.
I asked you specifically. I didn't ask about fair. I said, what do you want to see? Give me your top 4. Go.
What I want to see is the Bills play the Commanders, because that's a matchup that I think they are way better at. And then I'll take Bills Eagles because I want the Bills in there. So, yeah, I mean, it's rose-colored glasses, I think.
And then Chiefs Eagles, because you want the Chiefs to lose and you think the Eagles have the better team?
Chiefs Eagles because my boy's an Eagles fan and I would want him to be in.
Sam or somebody else?
No, my college roommate, actually.
Oh, yeah, the one you
good friend of mine. So, yeah. So, yeah, listen, it's hard for us because, we're in the forest, so hard to appreciate the trees. But, yeah.
What about you? Final thoughts?
What about me?
Final thoughts about today? About the NFL? About the podcast?
I think it's interesting because it's the most important game of our lives. And so, you never know if you're going to make it back here. And I had said when we were there in 2020 that we would make it back here, and I didn't think it would take quite this long. No. So there's a little extra sense of appreciation for it. And I heard kind of Josh Allen say a similar thing in his press conference earlier this week. So I'm hoping those boys know, it's funny. Everybody who's played football at one point or another in their life has done this, where you say, what are all those summertime lifts for, and the after practice sprints, and the, since you were 7. And I don't know, the reason that I did them was because I hoped someday to make it here. I didn't ever make it there. You know what I mean? But, for those guys in that Bills locker room, you can look at them and say, this is it. Your entire football life, what you have been working towards is right here. It's right in front of you. And you get 60 minutes to go out and show that you've worked hard enough to go ahead and take it. So it's interesting because you haven't really accomplished anything.
Nope.
If we look back on the season with a loss today, it's going to feel real similar to the past 5 years. If you look back on the season with a win today, it's going to feel like you accomplished something. So we're very much on the precipice of doing something important. And I think, that's something that I'd want to impress upon those guys in the locker room is you haven't done anything yet, but you can do something today. So it's interesting.
One before I die. I need it. I need it. I got to have it.
It's interesting. Remind me to tell you about a little slogan I thought up as I was unable to sleep last night. But that is the sentiment of a lot of Bills fans. And so let's hope, man. Let's hope. I am oddly calm, and I am just there's no wiggle there.
But this is my shooting hand.
Yeah, right. Like I'm not nervous about it, which makes me nervous that I'm not nervous. So we'll find out how that goes. But the hand is steady for now. All right. Any last words?
Go Bills. This is what we've watched football all year for, and only 3 more games left in the entire season. So make it count, make them great.
It's either going to be the happiest day of our lives or the saddest, and we're going to have some booze to accompany it either way down at the Denver Bills Backers Bar, Stony Uptown. Okay. Love y'all, and we will talk to you for a Super Bowl preview show. I'm not sure exactly when or where we'll do it. Who knows, because, who knows where we'll be. Maybe we'll be in New Orleans. Maybe we'll be here. But we'll do a Super Bowl preview show somewhere at some time, so make sure you tune back in for that on Super Bowl weekend. Other than that, we love you guys. We'll catch you next time. Peace.
Hot on the mic, bringing it straight from Western New York to the world. This is Charge with Thomas and Sterling. Bill's Mafia, stand tall and proud. We got this.